Welcome to the Asset Mindset podcast, again with yours truly, Benjamin Bolingbrook, and myself, Jordan Hadamio. Ben, what's up, man? How things been going?
It's been going good, dude. I'm glad we're doing another podcast. It's been a while, and we've kind of been gone and doing a bunch of things, and honestly, just been really busy. So it's good to get a little bit back on track, and the next few weeks we'll have some good guests coming on. So we're excited about it.
Yeah, it has been a minute since we've done one, just us, and I'm pretty excited about some of the stuff that we're going to be chatting about today. We've had a lot going on, actually. Like you say, we've been busy doing other things. We've had a lot going on between the real estate world and the sales world, and I'm pretty excited to dive into some of those things today. So we
Yeah,
should
man.
uh, we
So I
should
know
get
we've
started.
we've both been working on a few deals here and there. We both had some wins and also some failures, some losses. But yeah, let's first dive into the deals you're doing right now. We can talk a little bit about them.
Yeah, definitely. So um, recently, I think, and it's good to kind of be clear on what we were trying to obtain on this. So Ben and I have put a lot bigger of a focus on creative finance lately. So we've really tried to utilize, seller financing, subject twos, just working deals with sellers that allow them to, get a good deal, but also allow us to cash flow. Because right now, like, this market is really difficult to find cash flowing properties. And you can find appreciation properties. However, you're years out because, as Ben will probably talk about later, a lot of sellers, and I'm sure people that have listened to this and are either going through the buying process or the investing process, are experiencing that sellers are still wanting a high dollar for their property. And it's difficult for a buyer to get that when rates are where they're at. So um, we'll talk a little bit today about some of the creative finance deals, some of the wholesale deals that we've been working on, some deal finding, and then we'll wrap up with a deal right now that we actually have under contract. So most recently, Ben and I, we kind of partnered up on a deal out in Florida. I had found it. It's a deal I had looked at and talked to the seller months ago about, and it just came back up. And basically, what it is it's an 8 unit apartment complex, and um, it's in Florida. So that's like right smack in the middle of my buy box. It's where all my stuff is. I love Florida. It's a growing market. It supports. I think it offers great cash flow and it appreciates very well over there. But what this seller was actually asking for initially months ago was, hey man, I just want to be bought out. I just want traditional. I don't want to do seller financing. I'm going to 1031 into another property. Well, fast forward to about a month ago, there was a wholesaler who ended up getting it under contract, so we weren't able to do that. But this wholesaler and I got in touch, and the seller was now looking at doing what's called a subject to. And so basically, subject to is where we take over or more or less make the payments on the loan that he has, keep that loan in place, or in other words, in his name, and then we finance his equity or we just pay him his equity, either way. But the neat thing is he was open to doing that now, and we were trying to lock that up, but he had reached out to a lender and had found out there was some due on sale stuff that he was kind of worried about. So basically what we did is we just said, hey man, we'll just buy out your loan. It's, 200,000 and we'll finance your equity to you. Now the cool thing about this, Ben, is like he was going to finance his equity at 0%.
Yeah.
And so doing that and then having a 10-year balloon was going to be really nice. So basically we were going to finance a little over 500,000 at 0%. And then we were going to do a 10-year balloon, which would have been perfect. But that property was going to basically cash flow us a couple $1,000s a month. I think it was right around $3,500 a month after all is said and done, which is really good. We were pretty
Yeah.
stoked about that.
Been awesome.
So,
So Jordan, why do you think you went for that in the first place?
Well, I think the thing to realize is that I've always believed in, and most of my portfolio is multifamily. So that's one of my biggest check boxes. I love the multiplier game. The more units, that allows me to have confidence and just more comfortable. I just feel more comfortable about having more units because when one is vacant or somebody moves out, or if I have to, remove somebody from the unit, I have other people in place paying that note. So that was, I think, the major thing. The second thing is that the guy was open to creative finance. Buying that through the bank right now would have been a terrible deal. Like the cash flow on that would have dropped drastically. It would have gone from probably, I think it was about $3,500 cash flow is what we were looking at. So it was around 20% cash on cash return
Yeah.
down to close to like maybe around $1,000 to $1,300 a month
Hmm.
through traditional financing. It just would not have been a very solid deal. So those are two of the main things for me. Is one, it was a multifamily. Um, Two, the seller financing, the creative finance, and then my third one would actually be just the location. I think that's a huge one to point out.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. And so what happened next? I mean, tell the rest of the story.
Well, I don't have 8 units and 8 more units in Florida now. Um, it was kind of frustrating. So the wholesaler, he actually ghosted me. So I knew this seller, and I just says, "Hey, man, I know you're trying to sell this." I reached out to the seller directly, and I just says, "Hey, honestly, this is something we've talked about, before. I don't want to seem like I'm trying to go in the back door. I'm totally willing to pay the wholesaler fee." And wrap your wholesaler into this. However, he's not getting back to me, and I want this deal. So I'm not going to just get ghosted and pass up on this deal. And so I was very open. I was very like willing to still pay the fee, even though the guy had done absolutely nothing. He ghosted me, but I wanted to still try and make the deal work and make everybody a winner on the deal. But the guy and the wholesaler ended up getting into a dispute, and their attorneys were going back and forth on whether he was actually in a binding contract with that wholesaler or not. And so um, I followed up with him for, this probably started on Saturday. I followed up with him through Wednesday, and then he said, "Hey, man, I just got to wait to figure out this dispute with my attorneys." So I gave him a 2 day break, Thursday, Friday. I reached out to him again on Saturday, and he was like, "Oh, yeah, sorry, dude. I actually accepted a cash offer." And I was like, "Dude, are you serious? Like, how do you know I wouldn't have paid cash?" Like, I
Yeah.
mean, not that I would have, but like, just I don't know. It was really frustrating to be like that close because he was totally willing to do it. Because everybody that was talking with him was wanting to do the subject to route, and he didn't want to do the subject to route anymore. He just wanted to have his current loan paid off. And I'd been the only one that came in and said, "Dude, I'll pay off your loan, and then let's just do seller finance on your equity." I was the only one that offered that to him, and so it was kind of frustrating to have that happen. And I had just kind of said, "Well, man, what did they end up getting you?" And then he was like, "Oh, I don't want to give my cards away in case it doesn't close." And it's just frustrating because you get into that point of like, "Gosh, dude, like, do I even want to do business with you in the future? Like, am I just going to get snaked out if I, get 30 days into inspections and everything, and somehow you weasel your way out of something?" But it is frustrating, right? You get super excited. You're emotionally, you're logically, your time, everything you're invested into this, and it doesn't go through. But it is what it is, right? Like
Yeah.
he's trying to do what's best for him at the same time, and we just had to cut our losses and move on. So
Yeah, dude, it makes me think. I know you and me both listen to a lot of like Pace Morby, and he talks a lot about like finding the seller's bunnies, like
yeah,
finding their pain points, and then after you know their pain points and like what they actually want, trying to structure a deal around that. And so it just kind of makes me think, something to learn from this is, maybe we weren't necessarily like targeting his pain points and what he actually wanted and giving him a deal that worked for him, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's difficult because like this guy in particular, I think what's really hard about it is all this was done virtually. And I think there is something to be said about meeting somebody because I feel like there was this wall up virtually that like it just took a lot to kind of figure out what he wanted. I just felt like I was getting um, just smoke screens, right? Like the whole
Yeah.
time. And in sales, like I know that we have a lot of different techniques and stuff to like get past it, but it just yeah. I mean, it was really difficult, and I agree. Finding those bunnies or those pain points are going to be really what's going to make or break the deal for you, regardless of what the numbers end up being or not. Like you got to solve the person's pain points.
Yeah, I think, when I'm over the phone, I've done a few deals virtually, and I think when I'm over the phone, like the biggest thing is just building trust and rapport. And sometimes I tell myself, like, I just need to stay on the phone like as long as I can with this person because as the conversation progresses, then they start to like open up
Open
a little
up.
bit more and start to give more information, and then you can actually do a deal like the deal that I did wholesale in Pensacola, the guy he like right off the bat he said, "Oh, I like see you're from Utah. You have a Utah number." I'm like, "Yeah, you ever been to Utah?" He's like, "Oh, actually, like I have a son that lives out there." And then we just talked about that for a little bit. And then he's like, "Yeah, well, I think I'd sell this property for like 80,000." And I like quickly, did some analysis with Zillow and stuff, and I was like, "Yeah, actually, I think that would work for us." And then, was able to put it under contract that day. So it's kind of cool. So, but yeah, I recently reached out to another dude in Florida who um I reached out to him about a Florida property, and he said he wasn't interested in selling it, but he said I asked him if he had any other properties to sell, and he said, "Yeah, I actually have some in South Carolina." And so these houses in South Carolina, one he is wanting to sell for 7,000, and then the other one he's wanting to sell for 20,000. And I know nothing about South Carolina, but just networking with people over Facebook and other wholesalers, I think we should be able to put together a deal. It's kind of been hard communicating with him, and again, like I wish I was there face to face and I've like actually seen him before, but like he's just kind of an older guy and doesn't respond to all my texts and my phone calls, and yeah, I just need to keep following up with him, but
Yeah, no,
it
that's pretty
was
sweet. So this guy that because I think I don't even know exactly this guy that you followed up with in Florida. Was he? Did he have relations to the first wholesale that you did in Florida? Was it the same guy?
no, this is a different guy.
It was a different guy.
Yeah.
So, um, so basically, you started having a conversation with him about Florida. He didn't have anything, and you had built that rapport up where he was like, "Hey, I have stuff in South Carolina." So where did it progress to from there after he told you? Because you hear, "Dude, I've got a house for 7,000 and a house for 20,000." I think anybody's ears are going to perk up. But I mean, it's also like, well, what am I buying for that? Because that's a pretty low amount. So where did it progress to from there?
So he gave me the addresses and everything, and I just went on to Facebook and reached out to some wholesalers in those areas that I could find and asked them like, "Hey, do you think these are good deals?" Like I don't even have them on the contract, but like, he wants to sell his house for 7,000, and he told me like the house is boarded up, and I'm like kind of looking on Google Maps and it looks like it's in a small rural area. So he'd given me all that information and talking with these wholesalers, like I talked with probably four or five, and three of them were like, "No, I don't necessarily think it's a good deal." But one, I could tell he was like a little bit like bigger, almost like kind of more, expertise in the area. And he's like, "Yeah, the $7,000 one probably isn't a good deal, but the $20,000 one that actually like looks really promising, and we could probably actually do something there." So right now we're just working on getting pictures, and once we have pictures of the place, he's gonna send it out to his buyers, and we should be able to make some money on it.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. How are you going about getting those pictures and those things? Or is the wholesaler, is he in South Carolina or are you guys using somebody else?
Well, he is in South Carolina, but the he's like a few hours away from the property. So the owner said he'd get me some pictures, but that's the thing. I'm kind of like losing touch with the owner right now. Like he won't respond to me, and so I don't know. Maybe I'll just send someone out there, like go on TaskRabbit or something, and find someone to go take some pictures of the property.
Yeah, no, that would be good. It's kind of tricky when the owners start to like dwindle off, and you're like trying to hold on and hold on. I almost feel like kind of going back to like what you were saying earlier is like finding the bunnies and finding the pain points is seeing like yeah, he has these houses in South Carolina he wants to sell, but have you guys discussed like why or like if it's like what type of like burden it is for him or is it a burden for him or like have you guys been able to have your conversation with the seller progress to that point yet?
Yeah, the biggest things that have come up in our conversations is that he just doesn't want to do the work anymore on them. Like he bought them to flip them, and he has flipped a few houses. But this one house that he's selling for 20,000, it like has problems with the flooring, and he doesn't necessarily want to do that all the work himself. So he just kind of wants to get rid of it and offload it. That's like the biggest pain point I can get from our conversations. But maybe maybe I need to dig a little bit deeper and see what I can find.
It's hard. I wonder. I mean, at those prices, I'm sure he's not bleeding cash every month right now, other than like probably property taxes or something like that. But I'm sure utilities are shut off, and he obviously had paid cash for those. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. I'd be curious to see like how I don't know if there's anything else that is a burdening him with those properties in particular. It's hard, right? Like you've already tried reaching out and you're trying to draw contact again with him. So getting creative on like drawing that contact again is going to be the tricky part.
Yeah. Just use a different phone number or something. He's always been really good. Like when I talk with him, it just kind of seems like he's just like falling off the face of the earth. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
So Ben, what do you think right now sets us apart from the person that wants to get into everyday real estate but isn't doing it? Um, and what do you think sets us apart from the people that are doing like successfully completing multiple transactions a week or a month, which we aren't doing? So, first off, what do you think separates us from the people that aren't really doing anything in real estate yet, but they're like wanting to do it?
Yeah, I think the so yeah, people who aren't doing anything right now, I think the biggest thing is just getting out there and talking with people. Like, me and you are pretty good at talking every day with sellers and agents and property managers and contractors, and we're like really trying to put something together and kind of do all the works ourselves, which is, yeah, that's definitely what separates us from like the beginner investor who is probably just listening to podcasts and then not doing anything, or like going to a meetup group and then not doing anything, or like who just talks about it with their buddies and then they don't go do anything. Like I know we know a lot of people who just talk about real estate, but then they like don't actually do anything about in real estate. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that we actually open our mouths and start to take action. I think what separates us from the people who are like doing a lot of deals every month is that they just have like systems and processes put in place to get them deals. Like right now it's just kind of me and you doing all the work, like everything.
Yeah.
We're the cold caller, we're the text message person, we're the people who put deals under contract, and then we're the ones who dispo them, and then we're the ones who do all the transaction coordinating and the deal structuring and everything. And obviously starting out, it's good to wear all those hats so you can learn all those positions. But I think people who really like take it to the next level and do lots of deals, they almost just focus on what they're good at and then delegate the rest and find people to like fill different positions and do different things, you know? So
Yeah.
I think, I honestly think too, like, you know, maybe part of our struggle is that we aren't part of a big team, you know, or like a big network, a big group. Like, I was listening to Pace Morby this morning and he's just like, the number one way to make more money is to get around people who are making more money. You know, as soon as you start hanging out with millionaires, like you'll be the next millionaire. And then eventually, like you'll hang out with bigger, more friends and more people. And yeah, dude, I believe that. Like that's something that we should definitely focus on more.
I do too. Yeah, I think with the everyday, you know, investor that wants to get into it that is not doing anything right now or hasn't gotten their first deal, um, like what you were saying, it's important to just get out there and start having conversations. I remember having some conversations and being really vulnerable and just saying, "Hey, this is my first time. I don't really know. I'd actually really like to learn from you as I'm kind of, discussing this deal with you, or I've tried to say things and sounded, silly and made the mistake, but it's interesting, Ben. Like I'm sure you'd agree that when you say something really when you say something really dumb in front of somebody and you realize like, oh, that was embarrassing, dude, it like embroiders that on your brain. Like you don't forget it. I
Yeah.
mean, am I wrong?
No, you're right. The thing is, I think that we think it's way worse than the other person thinks it is, right?
Oh, absolutely. But that's my point is that's good because you learn like, okay, that isn't how it works or that isn't what I should say or whatever. And the only way that you really like set those parameters for yourself of like, okay, I can't talk to a person this way, or I shouldn't lay out this amount of information just yet, is by having that like smack in the face embroidery on the brain of, wow, that was embarrassing, or that really stunk. I don't want that to happen again. I mean, you look at somebody and um, that suffers from a lot of different PTSD and stuff like that or whatever. I was listening to something the other day that was saying something to the effect of some of the people's most embarrassing moments and whatnot, they can cripple people for a lifetime if they allow them to, right?
Yeah.
Basically, those experiences that they have that are very um, just chemical changing in the brain that make you feel a certain way, like those can cripple or really determine outcomes of some people's lives if they allow them to. And so I think that's something that's keen to know is, hey, I need to go have those conversations and I need to know I'm going to make or say or do something like not smart or silly or embarrassing. And that's good because then I will know not to do that again. But I don't know what I don't know. So I don't know what that thing is until I go and try and do it. And
Yeah.
so I think that's huge. But I agree with you on the other side of things as well of, putting a team in place and that starts with getting around people that are doing it. That starts with getting, I mean, even people that aren't doing it, just getting around people that are successful, people that are getting wins. Power of proximity. I hear Ed Milet talk about that all the time, but the power of proximity is so huge. It impacts more than just your, success or your outcome. It impacts how you think about yourself, how you perceive things, and how you handle situations. It's an important factor to keep in mind.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking this morning, like maybe we should start a little meetup group and try to, you know, get some investors who are like our level and a few steps ahead just together and meet every week and collaborate. You know, something like a mastermind might be worthwhile, might be something to do. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. Well, let's transition into what we have going on. So, fortunately, we're human and we know that we have a couple things right now that we were working on that didn't go through, and life isn't always as good as the Instagram post may make it seem. But um, Right now we are pretty fortunate because I think one thing that also sets us apart that I would add to um, what we were talking about earlier is that we just keep going. We just are doing it. We're just doing what we know how, and we're trying to do what we don't, right?
Yeah.
But we are doing what we know how to do, which is just continue to contact, continue to reach out, continue to network, continue to reach out to sellers, and make phone calls, knock on doors, do whatever it takes. And so the good news is, amidst all that we've discussed thus far, we do have one property under contract right now, which is super exciting. And so the interesting thing with that is the. I mean, should I just go into the whole story about
Yeah,
the
just tell
thing?
us how you found it and then how you structured the deal. And I try to hit on, some of the things the seller was going through and why you think they accepted to go under contract. And then also looking forward, some of the obstacles that we have to overcome to close this one out.
Okay. So interesting enough, I actually have been attending a lot of the auctions. So between Utah, Colorado, Florida, I've been trying to attend the auctions, and I had seen this property specifically on an auction list. I went and I tried to draw contact with the seller. Um, I didn't know where they were at, but if there was any possibility of getting it out of, pre-foreclosure, I wanted to try and take it. However, there wasn't. I couldn't even get in touch with the seller. There was somebody else that came to the door, and I have no idea who it was. In fact, he actually didn't come to the door. He talked to me through a window, where he was, using the restroom, and just talking to me through the window. I just saw his eyes, and it was the most interesting moment. But he owned up to it because I just talked
Yeah,
to him 2 days ago, and he did say, "Yeah, I was sitting on the john when I was talking to you," and I was like,
nice.
"I could smell it." So, anyways, that didn't happen. However, it did get taken off the auction list when I showed up to the auction that day or that next day. It wasn't there, and so I was like, "What on earth happened? How did this happen?" And so I followed up. I went back to the house, knocked on the door, and this girl answered this time, and she actually did come to the door, dressed and everything. But you
Good.
could tell she was super emotional, Ben. Like she was just, man, I I almost got emotional because I was like, I don't even. You just look, you know, really bad right now, and not in the sense of like, you don't look like a good person, but just you could tell she was going through a lot. Like she was definitely hurting, and so I had to really internally put away what my agenda was, which was to get that house under contract, figure out what was owed on it, where they were at, why is it not in auction right now, how did you stop the foreclosure process, all those agendas that I needed to like have done, I had to internally bank away. And I just asked her, talking about like what you were earlier with finding the pain points and the bunnies. I just asked, "Hey, what can I do for you today? Like, what do you have going on that I can help you out with?" And she just continued to tell me about her story and what was going on. Her mom, just this, past week, a day before the auction, she had told me, went and declared bankruptcy, which took it out of foreclosure. And then the very next day, she passed. And so she was just dealing with all of this. And as she was telling me this, I just asked again. I said, "Well, what can I do for you right now? Like, how can I help you?" And I could tell at that moment, as she just continued to like share with me, she just needed somebody to vent to, and that's all I was. I was just a sounding board, and I did that for probably an hour, and I learned a lot. But it got to the point of the conversation where she was just like, "You are a really good person. Like you seriously like have listened to me and just been one person that I've been able to like talk to, which is so interesting, but because I don't know you, but like just you listening has let me know like you have very good intentions. Like I'm willing to, work with you. I understand you're probably trying to do something with this house, but I do want to hear you out." And so I just kind of at that point I just, "Hey, look, you need to go in and and take your morning time and do what you need to do. However, I do want to be clear. I'm not an attorney. I'm not this or that. Because those are some of the things she brought up. But I just said I work with Elevate Equity. We buy a lot of homes in this area. We also help sellers sell their homes, and so I'm not a realtor, but we do have ways to do so. Are those things that would help you right now? And she said yes. So we set up a time to meet the next day, and we did that. And again, same process. I just listened to her and her two sons. Her two sons are there helping her. But we were able to get the property under contract that night, which is super exciting. Initially, we were wanting to put it under contract for around 270, and we ended up getting it under contract for 225, which is a huge it's a
Yeah.
big jump in margin. But the neat thing about this property specifically is that its ARV is in the 400s. So we've seen comps, between 415 and 440. So it's got a really good ARV on it. There's a lot of potential there with it.
I think it might be even more, like 480, 500 in that range.
It very well, and that's the thing is, I think it is based off the comps with the market, Ben. Like, and one thing that we've learned from Joe is discounting it by 5% just to be safe on the comp side
Yeah.
of things. Is where that 400 mark comes in, 415, 430, 440. But yeah, you're right. If we just went based off comps, you're 100% right. It's like 480 to $500,000 house. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of potential there, and we're super excited to hopefully get this deal done. However, once we got it under contract, we found out that there's a lot of hoops that we get to jump through. So that's what we've been working on now. Um,
Yeah. So I know some of the hoops we need to jump through, and I mean, one is that both of the owners died, right? So we
yeah,
thought that by having the daughter as a power of attorney that we could still move forward, but it looks like we're gonna have to actually get it probated. So get a lawyer involved to get it probated, and then also it's in bankruptcy, so we'll probably have to get the trustees' approval to sell the house out of bankruptcy, which I don't think should be a problem. I think as long as everybody's willing, that I don't see why that would be a problem. But still, it will take some time. But thing I like, Jordan, is that and you kind of hit on this the other day, but like I think some people kind of look at this and they're like, "Oh, I don't know how to probate a house, and oh, I don't know how to get a house out of bankruptcy, so like we're not going to go under contract. We're not going to touch that." But instead, it's just kind of like the ready, fire, aim. You just go for it and learn along the way. And I honestly think, like, there's a potential to make 60, $70,000 on this property just by wholesaling it. And I was thinking, like, the work that we're gonna do is like 60, $70,000 of value to this family and also to people who buy the property, right? And the community. So, like, yeah, we should be paid that much money by jumping through all these hoops and doing all this negotiating and helping and problem solving and stuff like that. So, what are your
yeah.
thoughts?
No, I agree with that. It is, and Ben, I mean, I'm guilty of that too. I mean, I know when I had the conversation with you, I was like, "Gosh, dude, I don't know how much a probate attorney's going to even cost. I don't even know where to find one. Like, how do you how do you talk the seller into going into probate? Like all these different things, but and we still don't really know. I mean, I actually have a call with an attorney and with that seller in 20 minutes. So, that's going to be exciting to figure out some more things. I'll probably have some embroidery moments of embarrassment. But,
Yeah,
like, here's the thing, right? Is it's like, guess what? Like, you made the joke the other day. You were like, well, Jordan, let me tell you this. The good news is when you're done with this process, you'll be an expert on it. and and I believe that like that's true. Like I will know, or I'll have a lot better of an idea of okay, this is how probate works. This is how probate attorneys work. This is what the range of cost is gonna look like. This is the time frame, and I've been able to have some of those conversations with that seller and adjust expectations, because I do know that it is going to extend the time frame. Um, Costs may change, things like that, but she's very open to those things. She's been very like easy to work with, and I think part of that is because I haven't been difficult, and that's something that I actually caught from Ben Care. I went to a seminar of him, and he's like, "Man, just don't be difficult to work with." And I remember that was one of those things that just stuck with me out of his seminar, and I've thought about that a lot. It's like, man, how do I just not be difficult? I just don't want to be difficult to work with, and I've just been there, and so I think she's felt that. She feels like I have her best intent in mind, which I do. And I think that we will be able to get the deal done. It may take a little longer than expected, but I think when all is said and done and this deal is done, whether we wholesale it or we flip it, I think that they're going to be in a lot better of a situation. You could just tell the relief once we came into the picture and started helping them. I think I'm going to be in a lot better of a situation. I'm going to know a lot more besides the income, right? I'm just going to know a lot more about the process. I'm going to build some more relationships. And then whoever buys that house, like you said, they're gonna get a great home to make some good money on, or to live in, or do whatever with. So
Yeah, dude, it's a win-win all around. And I love when real estate does that, because most people think like, oh, to be successful in real estate, I gotta, be greedy and take from this person and, cut a good deal and stuff. But like, I don't think that's how it should be at all. We can all win and we can all be successful.
yeah, I agree.
Well, it was good talking with you, sharing a little bit of our stories.
Hey Ben, it was good talking with you, hearing some of your stories.
Yeah.
Guys, give us a listen. Let us know if you have questions. Visit elevateequitygroup.com. Ben and I are going to start trying to do a lot more of finding deals and posting them so that we can bring people in on deals with us, and hopefully have you guys learn with us as we start putting deals under contract or whatnot. One thing that's really cool about Ben and I is, even though we don't have the $1 billion entity yet, we're hustlers. We're going to keep working. This is something that we're doing now. It's something that we do every day, and we figure things out. And that's one thing I really admire about Ben. I know he admires that about myself, because we're able to mirror each other in that aspect, and keep pushing forward. And it's something that we want to pull other people in on. So visit Elevate Equity Group. We're going to start posting deals in there. Check out the Asset Mindset on Instagram. Give us a follow and a like, a swipe up, give us a star, or 5 of them, not one. Don't give me 1 star. That's a story for another podcast.
Exactly. It's good talking with you, Jordan.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Ben.
We'll see you.
Bye.